have a power-packed panel discussion titled The Work from Home Experiment, Impact on Infrastructure, Compensation, Remote Working, and Flexibility. And it's my pleasure to introduce first the members of this panel. Amit Sharma, Head Human Resources India and Member Country Management Team, Volvo Group. Ritu Kochhar, Head Human Resources, Perfetti and Melle, India. Rohit Thakur, Chief Human Resource Officer, Paytm. Aarif Aziz, Chief Human Resources Officer, Diageo, India. Nishi Kulshreshtha Chaturvedi, Vice President Human Resources, Coca-Cola, India and Southwest Asia. Anjali Raghuvanshi, Chief People Officer, Randstad, India. And this panel will be moderated by Arvind Gupta, Partner and Head Management Consulting, KPMG, India. Arvind, over to you.
Thank you very much, Ivan. It is truly my privilege to talk about a topic which is so pervasive. Every company is affected by COVID and the implications of people working from home. As we all know, it's not a new concept. That concept has been out there for as far as 20 years ago, when American companies started to allow their employees to work from home. You look at Google, you look at many professional services firms. However, this concept was not very well accepted in India. So let's look at some of the positives and negatives. So positives are, employees don't have to travel 2 hours to their workplaces. The infrastructure cost, which is rising rapidly in India, you can save it by having employees work from home. It gives tremendous flexibility to employees. But having said that, a lot of people said, well, will employees actually be productive at home? There will be distractions. Employees may goof off. There won't be any collaboration. I want my employees to work in front of my eyes. Come COVID, every company has been forced to have their employees work from home. We have assembled, as you heard from Ivan, a very powerful set of panelists. So let's get on to asking some questions that we all may have. Let me start with Rohit first. Rohit, this pandemic has put work from home right at the doorstep of every company. What were some of the challenges that you faced at the outset?
Sure, Arvind. Thanks for having me here, and it's great to be with my fellow panelists as well. Just to give you some construct, India has over 300,000 COVID cases currently. My organization, Paytm, had the fifth or the sixth person in India, unfortunately, as one of our employees who got it. So early March, 3rd or 4th of March. We did not have too many precedents. We didn't have too many people to refer to see how to react or whatever. I think the basic theme we used was employee safety and employee health. And we just shut all our offices across India. So not just the office where our employee was working in Gurgaon, but we actually shut all our offices across India and said, let's sanitize the place, let's get everything cleaned out. And as we do that, let's follow all governmental regulations, get people tested and everything else. I remember that by the time Prime Minister Modi had announced the first testing Sunday, he said, hey, one Sunday, let's just test it out and see if you all stay home. We took that as a target and said that by that Sunday, every single employee anywhere in India, including critical services, should work from home. So be it desktops, whatever had to be shipped to people's houses or whatever else, we did all that. So fortunately for us, when the lockdown started, we were already in a certain way working from home. I think it's more a cultural thing. I mean, if I look at the challenge, like you said, Arvind, I think one is to have a few employees work from home on a certain days and have the people in office. And our company, again, like many others, is a very face-to-face company, where people come, we huddle, we kind of, like any startup, we kind of, we come together and we work. So I think it was more a cultural change to have 100% employees working from home. How does one leverage technology? How does HR engage, with our employees and really have our leadership team kind of connected with them? But I just think if I look at the one reason why I think it worked well for us was the common concern that everybody had for employee safety and we figured out things about how we should come together and work. So it's now been over 3 months, and as we go forward, as the unlockdown happens, and as we see even more cases coming up, in many ways, we've taken a decision that right till the end of the year, mostly, we will be working from home. So I think an experiment, a culture change that started off as a necessity over a period of time, given how well the teams are working, how the teams have come together, we pretty much are looking at extending it for the future as well.
Wonderful, wonderful. I mean, I've heard many companies, and they've told me and others that this work from home is working out pretty well for many, many companies. Ritu, question to Ritu. Ritu, why did it take pandemic for companies to do this 100% work from home? Why did it not happen before? I mean, the challenges of infrastructure, people traveling, all of those were there.
So I think the overarching theme here is that all the times we viewed work-life balance as the resolve for work from home and not really a business solve, which is really changed with the entire lockdown happening, because we were forced to run business and yet be at home, like Rohit said, because of all the safety and security reasons. For us, I think a couple of things which worked well as an organization, and I will put it in my own organization's context as I respond to this, is first and foremost the large transformation around route to market that we've done in the last about 2.5 years, where we've embedded tons of technology to run our business. I think that came in extremely handy when everything got shut and we were still able to run our business. The second one, which again came in as a blessing, and I have to be honest, it was again our response to work-life balance resolve and not business resolve, was we trying out as an experiment with our sales and factories. We have 3 factories and branch offices, to say, can on every alternate Saturday, half the population come to work and half be at home? And we created all the infrastructure for it. We created a lot of mindset really around it, because initially there was so much of resistance to say factories will fall off, our market work will fall off, and our sales numbers will get impacted. So thankfully for us, we did cross that learning hump sometimes back, which was 10 months ago. And I personally feel that came in very handy when this entire lockdown happened. And the third one really is around our preparedness. Like Rohit said, he had the 6th person in India get this infection. For us, being a European company, we almost saw it coming, because all our markets in Europe were starting to get locked down and everybody virtually was working from home. So before the lockdown really happened, 2 weeks prior to that, all our offices were shut. Everybody was working out of home, except for our factories, which again had scanty staff, which was supporting operations, and definitely our shop floor employees who were there on the floor to help us produce what we wanted. Your question, why does a virus need to come in to tell us what's the right thing to do and what are the benefits of doing this? I think a couple of assumptions really before we got started, and I'm sure it's the same for most of the organizations. Work from home is equal to we addressing critical tasks when we are at home, and we will not do work as usual. We can call it various things, but in a nutshell, that's what we are saying. The second big one, how does collaboration happen if people don't see each other? How does decision making happen if people don't see each other? How does sales run if an FMCG salesperson is not there in the market? They can't do sales when they're at home. And I think all these myths kind of saw themselves go away from the window. And a lot of experience that we've seen in the last 90 days and a lot of research that's getting published, and I'm sure all of us are privy to it. But I think collaboration tools which existed all this while have been used now. Productivity is at its highest. If we talk to our branches or we talk to our factories, the response time that people are getting is so much more heightened than it was before. Correct. We put out new products in the market at much faster pace than we would in a normal scenario. which means some of the creative and innovative thinking work really doesn't need fixed physical proximity. Maybe they are better done when people are sitting back home and focusing on some of that. And most importantly, I think managers. If we were to ever go back to people and ask for work from home, the managers are the most resistant, maybe including me saying, oh my God, how will my outcomes get delivered if everybody starts to work out of home? But we've seen a complete shift where managers have taken ownership. They are actually driving this employee experience. We would sit in the offices, but really not spend time with every single team member of ours. Today, we ensure we call them up.
I'm going to cut you, but thank you so much. I think you're absolutely correct. Why sometimes people have to be forced to come up with a solution given
Absolutely.
The problem needs to be solved. Let me ask Aarif. Aarif, given that CHROs now suddenly are in the midst of solving this major problem, do you think this profession, HR, has taken a tremendous sort of stature within the companies?
I think it's a great question, Arvind, something which all of us have been reflecting on as well. And, here's how I see it. I think importance or relevance of a function is a matter of opportunities and the impact one makes. This situation has, from an opportunity standpoint, brought us to the forefront. We are out there, trying to look at how do we solve for employee issues, how do we keep the organization running and so on. So tremendous opportunity. But I think impact will depend on how do we now strategically leverage this and create opportunities of growth for the business. There is a tremendous opportunity for us to deploy resources in newer areas. Traditional go-to-market opportunities, channels which we use have changed and may not be accessible anymore with the current environment and situation. So how do we quickly redeploy resources in areas which are more relevant and which will drive growth for the business? How do we actually, in this context, as in I understand very well what Ritu said, working from home, to Rohit's point, culture, and it's been a significant change, but sustaining it over a period of time requires a thoughtful approach. We all as individuals experimented, employees accepted, absorbed, and we actually thrived in this situation. But how do you sustain it? What do you need to do to sustain? And last not the least, there is tremendous negativity outside, which has also created, and people are stressed, all of that is coming together, which is creating mental health issues. People are feeling stressed, people are strained. How do you create an environment, and not just policies, but an environment that we can really make people come out of this situation, deal with this situation, and create a culture which can really energize people to deliver what we are doing. So while all these strategic areas of impact will be important for our function to really shine and come out as an important function, but I think first and foremost, which most of the times we end up missing, is be connected to business. We are a business function. We are not away from business. So as long as we do that, I think we can have an impact and be a function not just relevant, but a very impactful function.
No, I think you raised a very important point that HR is not just a HR profession, but it's an integral part of the business, and the impact on the business is something which is extremely, extremely important and critical to understand and affect. So let me ask Anjali, given what is happening, how do you as HR leader of the firm, you've taken care of the employees, but how do you train the CXOs to deal with the impact of work from home, the impact on the business? How do you prepare them to deal with these challenges?
Thank you, Arvind. I think it was amazing listening, first of all, to all of you, and and looking at how exactly each one of you are embracing the challenge which is in the current times, right? So I think before I answer this question, what is very important is to first recognize what is it that our leaders are going through in times like these, right? So if you see from that perspective, first of all, managing in an unprecedented times, a time which none of us would have anticipated, as we heard Ritu already, right? In terms of we never thought we could actually work from from home this well and this wonderfully. So that is one. But at the same time, they are going through the pressure of performing today, right? They have to continue to perform today. They have to lead their teams in the times of change. And they also have to keep this team engaged and motivated through this time. I was hearing some of the panelists before, and someone spoke of that today's workforce is not just working from home, but it's also working at home. So in many, many homes, that situation still prevails, right? So how do you then kind of ensure that you navigate through this and then kind of perform for the organization as well? So I think as HR leaders, we've always been coaches to our respective CXOs, right? We are the sounding board at times. We are the ones who sometimes they reach out to, and we lend a listening ear when they need it. So the first thing I personally believe is that, and this has been our mantra within Randstad as well, when we said that in it together, right? First of all, you're not alone as CXOs in your organization. There is no need for you to struggle all by yourself, but actually reach out to the peer network that you have as well. This has been something we've been driving in the organization as well, that reach out, help, support, care for each other, right? So how do you really leverage the peer network that you already have, and you look at together we can and together we will. Second is, I know that some of the organizations, while some are thriving in this time, some have gone through some very tough times as well, right? So how do you make your leader, help them balance from empathy to accountability to empowerment, right? You have to show empathy today because, a lot of people are physically restricted in their homes. They don't have a way of, stress busting today. So how do you ensure that this workforce, which has not much way of really kind of, going out and having the fun they used to have already, and help them, work in today's time? So how do you navigate from empathy to accountability? So you have to show empathy, but at the same time, you have to keep your workforce accountable. So we as HR leaders can really help and coach these CXOs to how do you really do this in everyday's, work life. Third thing is, we all say that leaders are born in the times of crisis. So as HR leaders, how do we really help our leaders identify the ones who are shining in times like these? So if you look at the natural human reaction in a time of anxiety and panic is to hold back. We don't like to trust people too much because we think we are better off doing things by ourselves. But it's time to actually trust your team. So how do you go and empower and give them that freedom to perform? So I think no one else better than our function can really help leaders nudge and say that, look the other side. Don't go, to the negative side, but on the contrary, be more trusting and be more empowering. And the other part is about the growth mindset, right? I mean, opportunity in times of crisis. What happens is that, sometimes crisis like this can make us think that outside things are not really working in our favor. How do I do sales? Till now, we were all physically meeting people. Now I have to do digital selling, right? So how do you help these leaders navigate not just themselves, but their teams in meeting up in, and building the growth mindset, being able to look for opportunities in the times of crisis. And last but not the least, while we are all talking about emotional well-being and mental and physical health of our people, it's equally important for us as HR leaders to constantly look out for our CXOs as well, right? We say that top could be lonely, right? And in times like these, it can be lonelier. So how do you really reach out to your people and help them navigate through these times as well? I think, I feel these are some things that we can do as HR professionals. We've been shining through these times. We can shine more and help our CXO leaders as well.
No, thank you, Anjali. I mean, I've never seen our head of HR as much in the eyes of KPMG as I've seen, and standing right next to the CEO and chairman. So I think you have a tremendous responsibility, not only in these times, but even going forward. So thank you. But, fast forwarding post-COVID, right? Nishi, what do you think is going to happen? Are we going to go back to the old habits, or there is a lot that will stay post-COVID in terms of all the progress we've made in work from home culture?
Thanks, Arvind, and thanks for this opportunity to be talking with such an esteemed panel. I think this is one question which is intriguing all of us, and I'm sure there is enough and more we try to read, and of course we don't find enough and more to build confidence on what's going to happen. So I'm going to kind of reflect back on this from two lenses, and I would be honest to say that this is not my own research, but one of my colleagues' research, and it is helping me build my thoughts in this space to say when there was we as a world have gone through many wars and many pandemics. And while these situations did happen, there was a new reality when these situations were happening. And soon after, over a period of time, the The definition of time could be different, but more or less the world came to a similar equilibrium. Of course, the equilibrium would have changed, the current reality would have shifted a little bit, but behaviors, patterns, consumer trends, all of that reflect that similar to what they were, it reached that space. So now if I was to fast forward and try to kind of reflect upon what past has seen of human behavior and to start reflecting on how things may change or may not change in the future, I do feel that there is something called a muscle memory, right? When we come to a workplace, our natural behaviors and natural patterns are going to come rushing back as they would have been a few months or maybe a year back. Having said that, there is a lot which is going to depend on different scenarios or differentiated environments where people are going to be on. And that space where the individuals are will impact the change space of the workplace. If I was to go a little deeper into taking this through an illustration, we all are in different life stages. We all have our differentiated requirements in a personal space. I could be a caregiver. I could be someone with a compromised immunity, or may have younger children. The way I'm going to come to the workplace, the way I'm going to conduct in the workplace is going to be based on what my needs are. The way I see the world changing or evolving is in a few lenses to say, number one, in general, the consciousness about health, hygiene, and safety will become very prominent. And this is going to start cutting across the economic strata. So be it our workplace, be it in general about if we are doing business as Coca-Cola at a Kirana shop, the person's lens to health and hygiene, everything is going to change in that space. Secondly, when it comes to how people are operating, how people are conducting in meetings or even in one-on-one conversations, you may see some behavior patterns which are unique, and being inclusive at that stage to say, I need to understand where this individual is coming from is going to be very important. To respect that individual's need, get that context right is going to be extremely, extremely important for us as organizations to start to reflect upon. Last but not the least, the usual thing about office travel. We have to travel tomorrow to a particular place and we have to fly down here and there. All that will certainly see a big shift, because there is going to be an impact of when we are coming back to work, and hypothetically say if we were to come back to work, whether people will be comfortable traveling, whether we do really want them to travel, all of that we'll have to think through, because there is this whole fear of unknown, which we'll not be able to take away from the mind spaces. So I would say, if I was to look at it from a people function point of view, and I'm being cliched in quoting another the quote which we all would have heard many a times, to say, never waste a good opportunity, never waste a good crisis. In that lens, I see this as an opportunity for people function and for all leaders and people in general to start being prepared in that space. So as an organization, as Coca-Cola, while we are in the space of really being valuing every individual's safety, security, health for themselves and family, and continuing to find the business imperative and get going in that space, what we also are wanting to look at is prepare our leaders for future and how they are going to work with their team.
Nishi, I'm going to stop you, but I think I concur with you. I think companies have already started slashing their travel budgets for the future, but because they realize people don't need to travel and waste money. So I think I agree with you. I think many of this stuff is going to be here to stay. Let me ask Amit. Amit, I've seen white-collar workforce relatively easy to take care of their security. They can work from home. How do you deal with plants where you can't have work from home? People have to come to the manufacturing facilities. How are you dealing with their, making sure that they are safe and secure?
No, that's a very valid point, because I can't make a truck or a bus sitting at home. I have to start my factory to have those lines running. But if we really step back, what the situation we were in, people were really scared to come to the factory. People were really scared to step out of their home, and more than when we started our factories, when the lockdown was kind of relaxing a bit, more than the COVID, the fear of COVID was at the peak. So we said, we look at two aspects. We look at employees as well as we look at community, both, and we kind of create work in the entire ecosystem around it to ensure that we are ensuring infection prevention for employees as well as infection prevention in our offices. So apart from a standard infection prevention protocols which are there in the office setup or a factory setup in terms of getting the segregation done, staggering the shift hours, making multiple canteens so that we have limited touch points, changing the table layout that only 2 people will be sitting, and that too with a barrier in between. Things like thermal scanning while they're coming inside, to the factory, sanitization everywhere, changing a bit of a layout of the line so that people kind of work at a distance. The other critical piece we also did was we worked a lot in the community they are staying in. So in the villages, our factories are a bit of in the outskirts of Bangalore. And we went to the villages and did a lot of work there in terms of infection prevention, telling them about hygiene, telling them about sanitization, distributing infection prevention products, so that they are also living healthy and living safe at those sites. When we started our factory, and people were really scared to come inside, that day we ensured that a few of our leadership team members are there in the factory to be with them, to talk to them, and to demonstrate the fact that it's a safe working space. You can come in and we are not jeopardizing or compromising anybody's lives, and we are equally in it, and we believe that we have done all the best things possible to ensure full safety in the workplace. So those are some of the things we did. Apart from that, we also created a bit of a small handbook around hygiene, infection prevention, distributed to all, so that they can take care of it. But we largely look at the entire the continuum, right from home to the travel they do it, the touch points in office, and when they go back to their homes and the community where they live in, because that is for us, is a key factor.
Yeah, that's a very comprehensive plan, and I'm sure there was no playbook that existed.
Yeah.
So everything had to be figured out, in the last 3 months. So thank you, Amit, for your wonderful response to this question. Let me I think we have a few minutes left. Let me ask a rapid fire question. I think just 30 seconds. Maybe Rohit, to you, how are employees reacting to all of this? I think you've talked about what we have done, what HR leaders and business leaders have done. How are they? What's happening to them?
I think they've adapted. I think they've adapted very well. I think because it's not just happening to them, it's happening to their family. Schools have kind of shut down. The spouses are also working from home. The fear about elder parents are still there. So I think I've seen employees adapting very well. I've seen employees finding alternative mechanisms to connect, because humans are social animals. So even while we don't come into office, we've seen a lot of engagement. Music or comedy classes or cooking these things or whatever else. We've seen a lot of elements happening being shared virtually. So both these elements, I think I've seen coming on pretty strong and very natural.
Excellent. How are people in Perfetti responding to it, Ritu?
I think, like Rohit said, they've adapted beautifully. It seems we've been doing this forever. And the second one, which is a really standout for me, is the amount of ownership people have taken to bring business back on track. And they've gone all out, boundaryless, to ensure we are out there in the factories, in the market, doing the right thing.
Wonderful. Aarif, what about the Diageo? What's happening with the employees?
Yeah, and it's nothing different what Rohit and Ritu said. Actually, employees have been the reason why we are so energized. We had one situation where employees said, we are going to make hand sanitizers and donate it to the healthcare workers who are out there in the front. And guess what? You guys don't worry about it. We'll figure out process, quality norms, regulatory approvals. The only thing we had to do was give them the air cover. And they just did such a fabulous job that it energized the entire organization. So it's been fairly positive for all of us.
Excellent. Anjali, Randstad, I mean, you guys are in this business of employees, so what do you see? What do you hear?
Yes, thank you, Arvind. I think what we see as an organization is definitely opportunity in crisis. I think and we are in the business of providing jobs, right? And I think a lot of questions are around how jobs are available or there in the market. So I think we as an organization and as employees have found out opportunity in times of crisis. Second is, I would say, unity. I think I've never seen the organization united as much as now, because maybe the enemy is the same for everybody, but the unity is amazing. And of course, and the last but not the least, I would say, is the energy of employees. As everybody said, I think we are connected more than before, ever before. So these three things I have seen personally as I've been, navigating through these times at Randstad.
Wonderful, wonderful. Nishi, what about Coke?
So I think the sentiment is the same as what everyone has just about echoed. I'll just sum it up by saying that as Coca-Cola, we have a vision of refresh the world and make a difference. I guess in today's time, each and every associate has self-enabled themselves to make a difference. I'm proud to state on this public forum saying that every person right now is gone beyond just doing their regular call of duty, and they are working extended in an agile environment to find the right solutions for what needs to be done right there. So I think that's where it is. Work that matters most and make a difference. That's what the two themes which everyone's mantra is.
Great, thank you. Amit, you are the last one. What's happening with employees? How have they taken, especially the plant and other employees?
No, I fully echo the sentiments which everybody has said, and I'll just share a quick anecdote. So when this was announced, the shutdown was announced due to COVID. That was also typically end of March, which is also part of a quarterly ending. And we have a global accounting services which runs from here, which does all the work. And these people, they said, don't worry, we will ensure that whether it's lockdown or not, the financial reporting will not get delayed at any cost. So the people just worked, maybe extra hours during those times to ensure that, our financial closing and our books account books are all were in place right in time. So that's the sentiment which I also kind of echo, that employees have really taken it very positively. They are very, very energized, and they're determined to fight it out and win it out in the market.
Great. I think this was extremely informative for me, and it's really great to see how companies have responded to COVID and work from home. But more importantly, I'm really, really upbeat on the fact that all the employees are responding absolutely beautifully to this crisis. Right. Let me turn over to the audience. If they have any questions, I mean, we are really privileged to have such an esteemed and respectable panel of experts here with us today. So I've got a few questions here. Question number one, the common concern about everybody's safety. What about the sustainability of the employee morale once the COVID concern gets eliminated? So I think it's a question about how do you sustain. Maybe today they're all feeling good, but I mean, I had expected this COVID to go away. Many of us. How do you keep the morale going? Anybody wants to answer this question?
Go ahead, Rohit, you were saying.
After you, Arif, no, please.
So I would say that, first of all, we should understand that this is not going to go. It's not a binary situation which goes off in the next few weeks. I think we are in for a longer ride, maybe many months or so on. We have to figure out, one, how do our people managers connect with employees very differently? So really helping them understand new ways of engagement. That's one. Create opportunities for fun, sustenance in the organization, virtual get-togethers and so on. Last but not the least, really focus on mental health. And I think from an opportunity standpoint, there are multiple things which people can do, counseling services and so on. But I think it's more fundamental. It's about culture of engagement. How do we engage with people in reviews, in meetings? How do we articulate our messages? I think that will really make a huge difference.
Correct. Yeah, I think I've seen very important to keep connected to the employees and not just forget that, hey, they're out there working. A very interesting question from the audience. Has productivity of people increased when employees are working from home? If yes, is it because of the fear of losing a job? Anybody wants to take a shot at this?
I can go for this one, Arvind,
Sure.
if it's okay.
No, absolutely. Yeah.
Thanks, Arvind. It is indeed a fact that the productivity of people has gone up. And I am sure it is consistent and experience for all organizations and all places. I guess it is not driven by insecurities. It is driven by the fact that you have a common purpose, which is to defeat the current situations and continue doing business and continue to do business recovery and grow with the organization. I think that is the underlying theme which plays in the minds of the associates, and that belief that you have a common enemy, you have a common situation, we all are in it together, and we all can actually make a difference is something which is garnering the hope and the belief that yes, we need to keep going, and there is everything else becomes incidental in this journey then.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Nishi. One of the audience, their question is, post-COVID, we have plans to move from having our own office space to a shared workspace. What are the best practices to allow employees to, even in this new environment, improve business productivity? Because it's a major change from your own office and to kind of a shared space. Anybody has any suggestions?
I think I'll take this one, Arvind.
Okay,
I think the rules remain the same, right? I think the safety, productivity, and engagement, as long as we follow the 3 mantras, and it doesn't matter, because we've seen earlier we had, limitations on working from home. Now we have explored that territory and we've realized that we are actually working beautifully. So keeping that in mind, I think in times like these, and as Aarif was also mentioning, that these are not going to go away in coming months, right? So safety continues to be the priority, and whether you are in a shared space or your exclusive space, whichever one you pick, safety continues to be the important area. And also to ensure that wherever that employee is based at, productivity isn't hampered in any way. And I don't see that, because if you can operate from home with so many things not in your control, I'm sure in a much, where your network connectivity issues and sounds in the background aren't there, you will be working fine. And of course, engagement. Now that is the biggest thing, because I think everybody spoke about communication, right? So as long as you continue to communicate and you're well connected with your employees, I do see that the people will be able to operate and continue to be engaged in a space like that as well.
Great, thank you so much. It's a question, last question. The question basically is that, as you see, for employees to work from anywhere in the world or anywhere where your factories are and to be connected, it's important to have reliable broadband connectivity, right? Do you see any challenges with that? Are there bottlenecks in that? Any of your companies, any of you has faced that?
No, we haven't actually. We really, for us also being a digital company, it's actually worked out very, very well. So I think broadband is better than what we thought, and it's been seamless. We had some initial issues, like when we first to manage 100% employees, with VPN connections or whatever else. I think our IT department, worked overnight on some of these elements, and I think now with 3 months of this thing, it's become much more orchestrated than what it was. We aren't facing any problem at all.
Wonderful. I think we are
the broadband, also in the rates. Even the broadband rates are also much more affordable than what they were in the past. So even that way, it's not being a very financial stress or even a work stress in general.
Correct. Now, I think with that, we are coming to the end of, I think, the time we had. But let me say, this is one of the most beautiful and memorable afternoon for me, talking to 6 of the smartest HR professionals in India and possibly in the world. So thank you so much. Your answers were really, really energizing for the economy and the business, and I'm sure it would give tremendous positivity to the rest of the people who are in the audience or rest of the companies who are facing similar issues and the problems. So thank you so much. Over to you, Ivan.
Thank you so much, Mr. Arvind Gupta, for moderating this panel. And like you said, we had some of the top HR professionals, not just in India, but in the world. And it was wonderful listening in, and I'm sure the audience is leaving with a lot of takeaways. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your insights on this topic.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
You're most welcome.
Bye.
Bye.